Good leadership isn't just part of business, it's the whole game. Today on BCP. Hey there, Proud Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Proud Show. It's the show that's all about having and living the blue-collar business dream. If you can dream it, you can build it. And Taylor and I want to be along for the ride, sitting shotgun in the truck, going to every job with you, riding out there and helping you grow, thinking about the things that you haven't thought about yet, challenging your ideas and assumptions, helping you see clearly what it takes to get where you want to go. Thanks for listening every single week. My name is Carter Harkins, and with me here is Taylor Hill.
You know, you said something, and that is seeing things clearly, because we as people can cloud our own minds
Yes.
and our own eyesight so easily.
Absolutely, we can. Here's one of those things that hopefully will be an eye-opener for you. I want to tell you about show sponsor, Closing Commander. Closing Commander automatically follows up with customers about your estimates and proposals. In fact, Jeff Wilinski, he's the owner of Cinderbox in Indiana, had this to say about Closing Commander. He said, prior to Closing Commander, our office manager was so far behind that there was a 3-foot tall pile of estimates waiting for follow-ups. After our office manager left, I went through these and found that some of them were 2 years old. At this point, I inquired about and ultimately subscribed to Closing Commander. Since then, there are no more piles of estimates on my desk, and we have booked so much more work that I am having trouble finding time to schedule jobs in the middle of our slow season. Closing Commander has paid for itself multiple times over every month that I have had it. I could not be happier with this product. Well, Jeff, I could not be happier with your testimonial, dude. That's such a glowing report. Thank you so much for taking the time to let us know that. And if you're listening now, it is your turn to unlock the revenue trapped in your open estimates. Sign up today for a 14-day free trial using the special link in the show notes, or the link that's in the special offers page of our website, or the special offers section of the app. And if you do that, then when you add a credit card, your first month will be completely free. That's right. It's on us. Get started today with Closing Commander. Okay. We're talking about something today that is, a tough conversation. Mm-hmm. There's times where I think I'm a great leader, and there's times where I realize, well, got some growth to do.
I think the magic is in the difficult conversations. So talk to us a little bit about the importance of that and what you've learned through difficult conversations as a leader.
I've learned this. I can be a little bit of an avoider when it comes to conflict. And most difficult conversations they're difficult because there's some conflict involved. What I've learned is you've got to take the rip the Band-Aid off approach to having difficult conversations. You can't shy away from them. You have to lean into them. You have to do them quickly with respect, but do it, completely. And don't just get halfway into a difficult conversation and chicken out and pull back. Say what needs to be said. Say it completely. And if that means owning, and taking responsibility for something you've done as a leader, then do what you've got to do. But be diligent to quickly have that conversation, to own it, to continue owning it. And, if it continues to be a difficult conversation, until there's change that has occurred, then stay with the difficulty. Don't walk away from that. Don't shy away from it. And that, even though it's hard, you said something years ago that impacted me. It's like, well, maybe, Carter, you really like hard, because by not having the conversation, by shying away from that, you're actually perpetuating the difficulty even longer than just getting it done, right? Mm-hmm. Tackling it immediately. And I was like, I never thought about that before.
Well, and that's really the buffalo and the cow.
Yes. Tell that illustration.
Well, when a rainstorm is coming, buffalo will turn toward the storm and run through it. So if you look at the rainstorm coming from east to west, west to east, doesn't matter which way you look at it, and the buffalo runs through it, then they get through that rain much, much quicker. where a cow runs with the storm. So they just stay in the storm and fly along in the storm. So be a buffalo.
Yeah.
That's the what is it called? The something of this story?
Moral of the
Moral
story?
of this story. Be a buffalo.
I thought
Run
that was
into the
good. So
storm.
that's what I've learned is just be quick to deal. As soon as you realize that this is a conversation that needs to happen, then gather up the people that are necessary for that conversation, have that conversation, and then, move through the storm faster.
And by the way, you are much, much better because that's been, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago that we had that conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you really do.
I try.
Do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another thing that I think you're the perfect person to ask to.
Okay.
Okay. I just want you to talk about how difficult, because I know this was hard for you to let employees really learn when it was just so much easier for you to jump in and get it done.
You mean like delegation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what you've learned, especially in the past 2 years. I think it's really kind of dawned on you that, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. What I do in our business is highly technical. And so it was easy for me to believe the lie that nobody could do it as well as I could, or as fast as I could, or as thoroughly as I could, with as much attention to detail as I could. I enjoy solving problems too. So when someone brought a juicy problem to me, my tendency was to want to take ownership of that problem, solve the problem, and not let anybody else participate in that. Mm-hmm. What I realized, though, and this was from Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last, I believe was the book. I can't remember now if it was that one or a different one, but the idea that the job of leaders is to create more leaders. Mm-hmm. That's the principal function of leadership, is to create more leaders. Mm-hmm. I realized that I was robbing those people that worked for me from the opportunity of stepping up. Because I was not leading them, I was taking away opportunities for them to grow instead of empowering them to make those decisions and encouraging them to step out and take ownership of a problem and work it through, to lead that problem through to a solution. So that was kind of the moment where I realized that as long as I kept doing that, I was going to be stuck in a position of being the problem solver in our business. And my business could never grow beyond the point that I was able to solve a problem. So if there was a stack of problems and I couldn't get to them all, then the business was going to be stuck there until I could get to them all. Mm-hmm. But if I empowered other people to solve problems, if I empowered other people to teach them what they needed to know in order to do more and more difficult things, give them those skills and empower them to find the information and the knowledge necessary and develop those skills, then it was never going to grow beyond me. But by doing that, I was replicating myself. I was creating new leaders in our business who could take ownership of bigger problems, and I could support their growth, but they could take over and do that. And I didn't trust that process at first, but as we went, I started to realize, oh my gosh, they're not calling me about this X, Y, and Z problem anymore. They just know how to solve it. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't know how to solve it, they can research it, figure it out. Now it just doesn't come to me. Mm-hmm. And it was that seminal moment of realizing, you know what, if I run my business in a way that every problem, I have to make a decision about every single problem, then every problem gets brought to my door. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that kind of business. I want people to solve their own problems and not bring those to my door. So that was I don't know. Does that help answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, because I think it freed you.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But I didn't trust it at first. But as it went, I realized how much more freedom I was having. Yeah. It was like, oh yeah, this is great. This is super.
And once you realize how free you are, all of a sudden you go back and go, oh my gosh, why was I? How long did it take me to do this?
Yeah.
Type of a thing.
And I will confess.
We've all been there.
I confess I still end up back there sometimes. Mm-hmm. If it's a problem that no one else has ever solved in our business before, sure. Because in our business we encounter new problems, mm-hmm. Where no man has gone before, kind of problems.
Space and the internet.
Because we're constantly innovating and doing the harder things. Yeah. But I have a team of people now that I trust, and it's great to work with them and figure out, okay, here's the problem. I'm not going to solve this. How can I help you guys solve it? Yeah. And try to remember that lesson moving forward with every new big problem that we've never faced before.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I also know our guest today, Trevor Flanagan, has some fantastic insights in this subject.
Trevor Flanagan is the CEO of Home Service Chats. It's a business that has rapidly grown. He's going to talk about that a little bit in the interview today. Trevor's just a great guy, and we were honored to have him for a few minutes on the show. He's experienced rapid growth himself and has learned a lot of lessons about what good leadership has to look like in order to grow at that rate. So let's roll that interview with Trevor, and then we'll talk again after.
Awesome.
Okay. Trevor Flanagan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So we're talking today about leadership and what that looks like. And I know that at every stage of growth, different requirements are needed from the leader to be able to lead successfully. And I'm curious, this is a personal question, and usually I don't start with a personal question right off the bat in an interview, but I feel like I know you, and I'm dying to know the answer to this question because you've experienced such rapid growth with Home Service Chats that what was required even just a year ago from you as the leader of the company is different than what's required from you now. How has that journey changed, and what does good leadership look like for you now versus just a year ago?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was actually talking to a bunch of guys about this topic just a little bit ago. So for those of you that don't know out there, we've grown over the past year from 10 or so employees, and now we have well over 100 in just 1 year. And so it's taken a lot of brain power to kind of, I don't know, I don't like to use the word meditate, but let's say it anyway. Meditate on kind of where I am at all points of the business, because we've had to add layers just to create scale. And we've been very intentional with that. And so a year ago, I was the good cop, the bad cop, the judge, jury, and executioner. I had to turn over a lot of people, and a lot of people did not like me. And, it's a rigorous process. And unfortunately, I'm good at that part, like understanding whether people are good and having difficult conversations that end up having somebody gone. I guess if that's something to be good at. And then, a couple months down the road, we had other managers, and then I was managing those managers and having to empower them to kind of make the decisions while at the same time teaching them what a good decision looks like. Because I very much believe in promoting people and not hiring in managers. In fact, I don't know if we have, but maybe 10% of the people that work at Home Service Chats are outside hires. Pretty much every person in sales and in marketing and even in chat operations and the managerial staff, they all started as a chat specialist. And I really just love seeing something in somebody and teaching them. It takes a little bit longer, but as far as culture goes, they get the culture, and you can teach them kind of the facets of what management is. And I was blessed with having a great deal of responsibility at a very young age. And I want to be able to do that to other people and just help them kind of advance in their careers. So had to kind of move the needle and keep on pushing myself to get further and further removed from the day-to-day decisions and empowering my managers to do it. And now I'm at a point that we have, me as one of the owners of the company, we have directors, then we have managers, and then we have chat specialists. And so managing people to teach directors how to empower their own managers to make decisions and treat it like it's their own little microorganism or organization inside our organization is really, really tough, especially whenever the answer, you're like, this is how you do it. But it's like such an inappropriate way to really grow somebody to tell them all the answers. Like I was able to make a lot of mistakes early in my career. In fact, I make mistakes every day. And I think it's a really great opportunity for people that helps them learn a lot, even if it is at the expense of the company. That's, why you have margins, like to be able to not have a perfect business, learn from mistakes, and keep on moving forward.
Mm-hmm. You said something just now about taking an interest in because people invested in you. You want to turn around and be able to invest in your people to help them achieve the life that they want. To me, that is the hallmark of a servant leader, of someone who says, "Look, I want you to be invested in what I'm doing, but in return, I'm gonna invest in you." How has that paid off for you as you've grown so rapidly just in a year's time?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I think that you get some of the most hardworking people if you have that, you know, level of dedication to the business because, you know, they see it. Like we don't, our customers don't, clients don't see us. And so we can have somebody that has tattoos or piercings and, you know, I have no problem with that. Like as long as you're professional and you dress appropriately, according to the dress code, and you can have an influence on other people, I will give you an opportunity to be promoted. And we have several people that, you know, they have piercings or tattoos, and Scott and I don't care about that kind of thing. We care about attitude, and we have some of the people with the best attitudes in the world. Like it's unbelievable. And you see it in our chats, I think that, you know, their level of the passion for the business, training their own chat specialists, and our director training her coaches to train the chat specialists, all of them have been given an opportunity and they see it. And so they just have so much passion for what we do. And I just got to believe that if we hired some outside hire, they would clock in and clock out and they'd be waiting for the next opportunity.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you said too is you allow them to fail without like falling apart. I think that's huge. So talk a little bit more about how you came to the conclusion that it's okay to fail.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that is the hallmark of, to use your words, of a growing business, is to have a lot of failures and like to really embrace them, and just kick the ego out the door. Like Scott and I make mistakes on a daily basis, and we don't hold each other, like we don't make fun of each other for it. We just hope that each other recognize, like, oh, that didn't work, no big deal. And then given that same grace to employees, like, oh yeah, like I want to point this out to you because this is not the way I would do it, and like in the future do this. Or if they really just, they're like, oh my gosh, I made a big mistake, and it's like, well, are you going to do it again? And they say, oh, absolutely not. And it's like, good, that you're good to go. And they're just like, wait, what? Like, how, why am I not in more trouble? And it's like, we don't, like, you're growing, like that's just part of it. And you know, that's why we have insurance, and you can break a thing every once in a while and it's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's great.
When a leader, you know, wants to make it retaliatory or punitive in terms of, you know, bringing correction to an employee, I think that tends to show, you know, it illustrates something that I think is probably going to end up holding that leader back in terms of their ability to be influential in their business. What are your thoughts about that?
I 100% agree. I think that you know, your staff is a reflection of you. And if you've been given grace, if you've made a mistake, then you can't really blame them for doing the same thing. And honestly, I would love for my staff to be a reflection of me because I've done pretty well and I've continued to grow this business. And if they can have that same level of dedication, mistakes and all, then we won. Like that's the goal. Aside from the fact I tell people all the time, like they say, I can't, like we've turned down business, especially if like there's somebody that I really just think is really doesn't have a good moral compass. I'll tell them that we won't work with them. I have no problem doing that. And I had somebody just a couple weeks ago, I was at a trade show and he's like, are you kidding me? You're not going to take my money? And I said, absolutely not. I said, this isn't about money for me. I said, if this was about money, I'd be selling drugs to kids. But this is about transforming lives. We want to make sure that not only do our clients get absolutely the best service, but also the people here can like look in the mirror at the end of the day.
Oh man, that's great. When you stand up for your people, you know, they will follow you because they know you got their backs.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't think that there's any question. Everybody here just works their tail off, and it's like, you know, you spend more time at work with these people, everybody does, than you do with the people that you actually did choose at home. So, like, you better create a pretty good environment and a pretty welcoming environment, and really just kind of pour into each other.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because what you just described, using the words environment, is really culture, and we talk about here all the time that we believe that leaders don't lead businesses, they lead cultures, and then cultures become the business. So I'm curious, as you look at your own role as a leader in your business, how do you facilitate culture? What are the steps you take to proactively say, this is who we want to be as a culture, this is what we want to use as a tool to attract the right people and to keep those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Scott, my business partner, our CEO, he is really the culture driver. That's what he spends the majority of his time every day, really pouring into people. We gave up our offices months ago just because we found ourselves getting stuck in an office instead of being a part of the company. And whenever you have as many employees as we do, and you're hiring 15 people every 2 weeks, it's more important for us to be in the chat rooms and kind of taking up a desk, or being in the marketing office and just kind of being part of it, than any of the so-called important things that we think we're doing in our little office, because you just get so siloed. And so we, and mostly Scott, really worked hard on this from the beginning. He, every single day, every single one of our employees does what's called a daily huddle with their coach. And so we've kind of separated our business off into different segments. So we can still provide 24/7 service, but we can still stop taking chats with any one group at a time, so we can do this daily huddle. And they go over the mission and vision of the company every single day. They go over what they're thankful for in life, and then they pick a core value of our company, which is on the wall of every single room, of which one they're going to focus on for the day and why they're going to focus on that one. And really just driving that home. I mean, every single employee, every single day. Like, it's not even a question. So when it was easy when we had 4 employees, now that we have over 100, we've still created the processes to make this the first part of their morning, first part of their night for the 24th, like the after hours people, or in the middle of the day for the evening shift. But the first part of their day, they're having these conversations as a group and kind of getting their head in the right space. And the core values are everything. I mean, we tell people, hey, like, you don't need to work here. You need to, and if you do want to work here, you have to be the personification of those things on the wall, because that is what a professional, it's what a home service chats employee looks like. It's just that. And our core values are do more with less, exhibit professionalism, drive your bus, be an innovator, have an intense attention to detail, and then create a positive team culture. And every single employee knows them, and we have cards in our wallet that have them all on it.
That's really good. Mm-hmm. I like those too, by the way. As you were reading them, I was like, ooh, that's not only attractive to someone looking at being a part of a team, inside out, I mean, outside in, looking in, going, yeah, I want to be a part of that team as an employee, but also attractive to your customers to know that that's how you guys live and breathe. That's what you live and die by. That's a very attractive thing. And I think that's a testimony to your leadership of the culture, that you're putting it so forward in your communications with employees and with customers.
Yeah. And I mean, I was told by, there was a speaker at a conference I was at like 5 years ago, and what they said just like was burned into my brain. He said, either you control and create your culture, or it's created at the water cooler. Meaning, like, if you don't intentionally design, and this is what it looks like to be an employee here, your employees are going to create it. And honestly, it's probably going to be the bullies of the organization. It's the loudest people that create an uncultivated culture. They are the loud ones, they're the mean ones, and it's just not fun to come into work with them.
So
Very
true.
Good. That is true.
Good stuff. I want to cut it off here, but I'm looking forward to additional conversations with you just as we go. And you've got some key insights that I think, and I'm just going to tell you this as an outsider, but for having grown so rapidly, the intensity with which you are able to look at yourself and your business, to mine the good stuff, not only to see where did we fail and how can we do better, but also to see here's what's working and why, is truly singular. I mean, I don't know many people that can be as as keenly aware as you are. That's just good stuff, man.
I appreciate you saying that. As we've grown a lot, it's kind of, you have to check yourself. Like, am I being humble enough? Am I driving the organization, with enough vigor? And there's a lot of balancing that you have to do. And I'm just trying to do my best.
Well, good stuff.
Yeah, you're very self-aware, and every successful business owner, successful person I know has that in them. So kudos to you.
Thank you, guys.
Trevor Flanagan, everybody. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's cool to talk to somebody who's experienced that high level of growth. I mean, at one point he said they're hiring 15 people every month.
Yeah.
Or every 2 weeks, did he say? I can't remember.
I don't remember either, but
it's
pretty phenomenal however many he's hiring. Yeah. I was just trying to do the math in my head of how big he's going to be in another year.
Yeah. And you might be asking the question, why do we have a vendor, somebody who would be wanting to sell something to you, as a chat service? Why would we have that person on to talk? Trevor actually ran successfully at a very young age, was the operations manager for an HVAC company, and grew that company from single digit trucks to multiple digit trucks.
Like 77 trucks.
Yeah. So the guy's got it going on. And what we wanted you to understand was business principles work regardless of what industry they're in. If you think that because of the industry that you're in, that certain business rules and laws don't apply to you, you're fooling yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted you to hear Trevor because the story he's got to tell and the direction that he's gone there before. He's doing it again this time with his own business, but he's been there before, and those lessons have held true in HVAC, in a service business, as well as in a business that's a little more tech. So that's an important distinction, I think. But I want to ask you, Taylor.
Sure.
We see all sorts of examples of leadership in the world. And sometimes those examples are really good. Sometimes those examples are really bad. I personally think it's easy to spot good leadership. But there are a lot of people in our world who are in positions of leadership, who have been given positions of leadership that are pretty advanced. The world relies on them in those roles. And yet what I look at, I go, that's not good leadership. So I want to know from you, why is it easy to spot good leadership, do you think? And why are there so many people in the world who are in positions of leadership but aren't good leaders?
So in businesses, let me start there, because in a business, I think it's pretty easy to spot good leadership based on how the person talks about his employees. That's the first thing I listen to. If somebody is always griping and moaning and bemoaning and putting down their employees, and I'm not talking about I'm ticked off at somebody and I just need to spew for a few minutes and let some deal off, and then when I calm down, I realize, okay, get back to normal, because we all need to do that sometime. I'm talking about every single time. It's always somebody else. It's always something else. There's, they downgrade their employees. That's the very first key to me is, guys, you don't know what you're doing, because you're responsible for who you hire. It's kind of like who you're responsible for who you marry.
Right.
That type of a deal. You get to choose that. They don't choose you.
Right.
You choose them. So, that's the very first thing. The second thing I look for is consistency. Okay? Consistency of message, consistency of action. And this is where you get into pretty much any leader. There's a consistency that people can take you to the bank. In other words, if you give me your word, because I've known you so long, if you say, Taylor, I will do X, I don't have to bug you about that, because I know you're going to do it. Okay? It's consistent. So your employees and the people that follow you cannot do that if you're not consistent, if you're all over the map. If one day you say this, the next day it's that. Oh no, I've changed that and it's this. Oh, I didn't say that. This is what I said. The inconsistency creates this incongruency of message.
Chaos.
Yeah. And I know that there are people that say, "Oh, great leaders lead in chaos," and I'm like, "No, great leaders, you know where they're going." Because if somebody comes to me and says, "I'm going to the beach, and tomorrow I'm going to the mountains, and then next day I'm going to the moon, and then I'm going to drill a hole and go to China, and I'm going to," whoa, hold on. I've got to have something there to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Give me what's going on. And if you can't put that together, you can't lead.
So you're talking about vision. You're talking about setting
Yes.
an example or not setting an example.
Core values brings consistency.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Vision tells me where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Got to have it. And the mission tells me how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
You've got to have those things as a leader. And you don't necessarily have to have them written down all the time. It's great if you do. I highly recommend it. But you have to be able to tell every single person that you come in contact with why you do what you do. Okay? Why is it important? How do you do it, and how you impact the world through it? And here's where we're going, and here's how we're getting there. And I'm very consistent. Everything I do is about that. You do that, you're a good leader. You don't do that, you're not a good leader.
In that moment, so I'd like to say, I think anybody who is not doing a good job at the moment has the opportunity to recognize, you know what,
Absolutely.
I'm screwing it up here, and I got to do it differently, and I got to change my mindset about my leadership here and start doing it this way.
I think a lot of it has to do with, and this is, again, full disclosure, my opinion. I think there's a lot of us who go into business and who start a business because our backs are up against the wall, and that's all we got. We got to do something. We got to make a living, and so we start a business, whatever it is, printing business, plumbing business, chimney business. I don't care what it is, marketing business. So your backs are up against the wall. You got skills. You start a business. You go out on your own, and you're doing it. Okay, but we never think about why we're doing it. Outside of we got to have cash to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. That's the why. Well, that's not a very compelling why. Really isn't. There's a lot of ways to make money. You go out and get another job. But why did you choose to go out on your own, to risk your capital, to risk who you are and put yourself out there in the world? Why did you do that? A ton of people don't know the answer to that. So how in the world can you have compelling core values, a compelling purpose, know what your mission is, when you haven't even figured out why you started the doggone thing? Outside of just, I need a buck.
Yeah.
And in today's world, I need a buck's just not, it's not good enough. It really isn't.
When I said at the top of the show that leadership wasn't just part of business, it was the entire game. That's sort of what I was leading up to. Was I think every person who owns a business needs to understand that their leadership of the people in their business is it's the whole game. It's you're going to screw up, you're going to fail, you're going to miss the mark. But at every step along the way, the people that you lead are looking to you to understand whether or not you realize that you missed it, that you screwed up, that you failed them. And if you can realize that and make the necessary moves to correct course, then you're winning the game. Mm-hmm. And you're setting yourself up for a win. There's nothing so bad in business as a leader who is a bad leader and won't recognize it. And we see that at every level of both business, politics, you name it.
Yeah.
People who pass the buck, who refuse to take responsibility, or who blame others for, this is just what I inherited from my predecessor. These things, and it's It's a self-defeating attitude. What I look for in a leader is someone who goes, you know what, the buck stops here. I'll take full responsibility. There are complexities here that are beyond most people's understanding, and I don't expect for them to understand it. But they can still look to me for leadership in this, and they can still see what, in my example, what the proper way of conducting ourselves needs to be. And if they're following me, they'll see in me the kind of leadership at every level, not just business leadership, not just
everywhere,
employee leadership, but moral leadership and everything else. They'll see from me what they need to see in order to, if they were to do exactly what I do, we would end up with a better organization.
Right.
We would end up with a better country. We would end up with a better world if everybody followed my example as the leader.
Right. And there are a lot of things that happen, and this is a big issue. I see it in business. I see it in politics. I see it in families, where here's the rule for you. Here's the rule for me.
Right.
Guys, good leaders follow their own rules. When they put rules down, they follow that rule because it's their value. And they get people with them that share those values. So they're all going in one direction. It's not, hey, this is good for you, but I'm going to go over here because this is better for me.
Yeah.
They're wanting everybody to win. Everybody. Not just a party, not just them, not just their family. Everybody to win. And until we understand that we need really good, valued leaders that know where they're going, that we can hitch a wagon to and say, okay, let's move with them. And until that happens, we're in sore shape in a lot of places.
Yeah, our
Hate to
businesses
say it.
certainly
Business,
suffer for
yeah.
lack of good leadership.
And our culture as a country suffers for it because we're telling our children that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wow.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast. Probably has nothing to do with this, but yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll
Yeah.
wrap this up real quick.
I think we should.
So if I just want to, before we do wrap it up, want to ask you guys if you like what we're doing on the show, if this has been thought provoking to you, if this has been good subject, good information, good things to think about to help you become a better leader, please let us know by leaving us a review in iTunes. Reviews mean that we are able to serve more listeners who are interested in hearing the show and hearing the content because of the reviews that you leave. So please help us keep this project going by leaving us a review over in iTunes. Also, don't forget that you can download our free show app. It's available in the Apple App Store as well as from Google Play. There's good content there, a lot of bonus material, as well as special offers like the Closing Commander offer that we made at the early beginning of the show. So most of all, though, come hang out with us over in the Blue Collar Proud Nation Facebook group. Just do a search for Blue Collar Proud or Blue Collar Proud Nation. You'll find the group. Ask to join. We'll let you right in. And as always, you can find out about us and all the other places where you can connect with us online, places like Instagram, places like Twitter, yada, yada, by simply going to bcpshow.com/connect. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for being in our audience and listening every single week. We also want to thank the people that make this show happen. Aaron Blaze, our technical director, Jessica Wynn, show coordinator, and Jonathan Sanders, our community manager. Until next time, remember that it takes the same energy to build a business that owns you as it does to build one that you own. I guess that's one way of saying it. Anyway, we'll see you again next time right here on the Blue Collar Proud Show. Talk to you soon.
The Blue Collar Proud Show is a production of the Blue Collar Proud Network.